Hello and welcome to Driver's Therapy. In today's video, we're going to be installing a Honda OEM air filter in our Acura NSX. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, this is what we're going to need. We have the OEM filter. I'll put the part number in the description, and we purchased this from Science of Speed. And what we have here is we have a ratchet, an extension, and an 8mm socket. I also have some gloves to protect our hand and a light in case you need to see in there. But I'm going to show you something here in a bit. Depending on your lighting situation, you just want to make sure you have good light. We actually made a video about installing a engine light in our Acura NSX. If you want to see that video, we'll go ahead and put that in the description as well. But let's go ahead and get started here. So what we have is we have the air box over here, and we have some 8mm captive bolts. And what that means is that when you take them out, they just kind of come out a little bit. They don't come out completely, and that's why they call them captive. And then you have some plastic hosing that you want to be careful with. And then you have your intake rubber boot that we're essentially going to have to compress to get this lid over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to do it, and you'll be on your way. All right, so the reason why you're going to need the extension is because it's going to be really important to get to the ones back here. But we're going to start off with the ones that we could get. So this is what I was talking about as far as captive. You know it's out when you kind of move it up and down. And then I'm gonna come over here, do the same thing. Now, these are on here pretty tight, but since I'm super strong, I could get them off without a ratchet. I know some of you guys might need a breaker bar for these, but all right, so over here is one of the bolts that I was talking about, one of the captive bolts. All right. Now at this time, what I'm gonna do is, if you look over here, there is a hose. You start off with the hose, and then there's an intermediate plastic hosing. What you wanna do is you just wanna be careful when you wanna pop it off, right? Ugh, just like that. And then the same over here. Let's let Elise be able to film this real quick. It's gonna be one right here. It's kind of hard to see it, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go ahead and pop it off. Remember, just be careful. Boop. And there's gonna be a breather hose, or I think that goes to the evap canister. And what we're gonna do is, this is rubber. We're just gonna kind of pull it off. And that's gonna be really important because we're gonna be able to get to one of the last captive bolts right here. Using my extension, I'm gonna go ahead and loosen it up. Now, there's a tricky thing about these captive bolts is that even though you loosen them up, they could actually, just with vibration or you moving around, they could actually kind of put themselves back in there. So if you get stuck, that's probably what happens. You just have to go and get it off there. All right. So, as you can see, my DIY light is frigging out because the switch I have for it on and off is right here. So, and then at this point in time, this is the only part that's kind of a little, not hard, but you're like, oh man, it's a tight fit. But you're gonna remove your old filter. I have the K&N filter. I do clean mine, but we're gonna go back with the OEM because I'm gonna go on some long drives, and I trust the OEM over K&N when it comes to something like that. So let's go ahead and put our new filter in. We're always gonna want to put our filter in the right direction. So let's go ahead and show you what that means. Here's our K&N filter. Here is our OEM filter. I did make a video about comparing them, their pros, their cons. I know it's a huge battle and stuff like that. But when it comes to filtration, the OEM filter is gonna be better, and I'm just summarizing everything. But the K&N filter does some good filtering as well, but you have to make sure you do the maintenance. You have to oil it and stuff like that. But you definitely get more sound out of it. Everybody says you get more sound because more air goes through it, and that's not a good thing. Long story short, watch the video if you want to compare these. Either way, I'm going with the OEM filter. So let's go ahead and put it in. Now, before you put the air filter in, you just want to make sure that you look inside here and that there's not a bunch of leaves or a bunch of random stuff in there. And the reason why, it's just a good time to clean that area. Now, I would recommend that every other time or whenever you feel comfortable, that you go ahead and you remove this top lid and that you just clean everything out. So let's go ahead and put this filter in. So There's a clean side and a non-clean side, but as you can see, there's a big difference. And so essentially, this is where the engine's gonna suck, and this is where the air is gonna come from the outside. Luckily for us, some cars, the design is just a square, so you get confused, but this has kind of a cutout right here, and that's gonna help us out because we're gonna match it up with our airbox. Like I said, I like to do everything gentle, and that was super easy. Now it's in there. Let me get a light so you guys can see. As you can see, it's in there, right? Nice. And the thing about the OEM filter is it just fits in there beautifully. It seals up there, but it's good to go. Now what you want to do, like I was talking about, you have to kind of play accordion with this, with the duct, is you have to carefully, and the key word is carefully, position everything back in here. All right, and a good way to know if you're on the money is if you start hand tightening like this one right here, and it doesn't want to go in, that means that you're not positioned correctly. So, all right, just like that. When you have it positioned correctly, when you start hand tightening, they should just start going in there perfectly fine. Remember, if for some reason they just keep turning, your alignment isn't correct, and you just have to finesse it a little bit. So all these are doing what they're supposed to do and turning without an issue. Okay, so next what I like to do is I like to start them all, but I always like to do a crisscross pattern with anything like this. And the reason why is because if you start tightening down one side big time, then it's gonna be harder to do it when you get to the other side, if that makes sense. It's like the same method when you're putting a wheel on. So I am not tightening him all the way down quite yet. I'm just getting him down pretty well. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a final inspection just to make sure that I didn't pinch anything, that nothing's sticking out. I'm even putting my hands in here, feeling everything out, and everything feels pretty good. So at this point in time, I'm gonna go ahead and finish, making sure they're all touching, and then I'm gonna go back and tighten everything down. Of course, with a lot of things, there's torque specs, but this is one of those things where you just kind of feel it out. You don't want to go too tight. I'm doing it finger tight. And that's why you really don't need the ratchet unless you need to take them off. And like I said, you haven't tried my workout program. All right. And then we have one more here. And that's it. Now we're going to go ahead and put all our rubber hoses and stuff back in. And you just kind of want to make sure you put them back in naturally. So let's go ahead and turn back our light. There we go. We're going to place these here. My light is being a little finicky. And this one right here. Boom. All right, the air filter's changed out, the captive bolts are tightened down, and our hoses, both plastic and rubber, are back on. Quick thing, look at this air box, this sticker right here. I bought that from Mita Motorsports. If yours is peeling or loose or anything like that, they do have a replacement for that, and I thought I'd bring that up because it has to do with the air box and the air filter. All right, guys, well, thank you for watching. We really appreciate it. I hope this video helps out any new NSX owners out there. If you found our channel, we have all kinds of videos for the NSX. So make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, and we appreciate you watching. You take care, and we'll see you soon.